Your Honor, I have my opening statements ready to present to the jury. Opening statements, presenting the main themes. Prime Video just released a TV show called Elle, about girly icon Elle Woods of the beloved, empowering, pink, and somewhat satirical movie Legally Blonde from 2001. When the show Elle was announced and they dropped the first teaser, I think almost all of us had the same questions. Is Elle about to have the exact same growth arc that she has in the movie? And if that's the case, doesn't this mean that the character regresses between the eventual series finale and the movie, thus having to learn the same lesson again? It felt like an unnecessary prequel that might break continuity with the canon of the movie. I personally don't like to publicly complain about a show or a movie that hasn't come out yet, because usually the missing context makes some difference. But in my head, I was thinking the same thing. Like, this is going to be very redundant and it's not gonna sync up with the movie, or the movie canon is gonna undo all of her development from the show. Because in this prequel, bubbly and pink-loving, 16-year-old Elle moves to Seattle at the height of the grunge movement. An arc that mirrors her moving from CU LA to Harvard in the movie, or UCLA if we're talking the Broadway musical. It's a fish out of water arc. And then the full trailer dropped, and I became hopeful that maybe we were all jumping the gun a little bit. Most people were still firmly complaining that this is a redundant storyline, but I became hopeful that the fitting in arc was going to be a pilot episode thing only, 2 episodes max. And the actual main storyline would be investigating the situation with the principal. I even tweeted about it, here's my proof. And, not to brag, but it turns out that I was kind of right. Elle the prequel is not redundant, and it does not break continuity with the Legally Blonde movies. The character of Elle goes through a different arc to the one she goes through in the movie. There are similarities, but the focus is different. She faces different challenges and has a slightly more evolved personality in the movie. More importantly, the evolution she undergoes in the prequel is how she becomes the person we see at the beginning of the movie. And then she undergoes a different evolution in that story. That is what I'm here to prove today. Because here's the thing, in the show, Elle doubts herself. In the movie, other people doubt her. That is the main difference, and where her growth lies between her teenage self and her young adult self. Adult Elle has an unwavering confidence that teen Elle doesn't have yet. And frankly, fitting in isn't the plot of Elle the series. It is a small framing device used in episode 1 to set up what the main conflict actually is. But it is not the main conflict in itself. It's just the launching pad for it, the jumping off point. Because her trying to fit in by helping with the auction leads to Donna being fired, which then leads to Elle trying to get her job back, while at the same time feeling like she wants to go back to LA, so she's working on her application for a Cosmo internship, and that leads to her planning homecoming, etc. And the Donna situation leads to Elle and her friends figuring out that there's corruption at school, so they band together to investigate and prove it. And in the meantime, she also makes new friends, plans a memorial, and has a love triangle with 2 crushes. Seriously, in those 8 episodes, Elle is almost as busy as Alison De Laurentiis was on the night that she disappeared. Clearly, Elle actually goes through many different story beats that all kind of tie into one another. So her attempt at fitting in at the beginning is really not the point of the series or the main lesson that she is learning. In fact, let me show you how quickly Elle fits in Seattle. In episode 1, yes, of course, she gets weird looks and rude remarks because of what she wears and how she looks, and that deflates her. She's judged as shallow and dumb, which makes her sad. This is the fish out of water part of her arc that does indeed exist. But Liz helps her get the lay of the land by telling her about the cliques in the cafeteria. Once Elle joins Dustin in the auction and successfully sells the first item, he wants her to stay to keep helping him sell more. Miles helps, and even Liz looks a little impressed with her. And Elle gets the crowds chanting for her. In episode 1, the school is chanting for her. How much of an outsider can you really be at this point? Another important thing is, in this episode, even when she tries wearing a Nirvana shirt to relate more to Seattle students, Elle never considers actually changing her style to fit in. She blinged out the shirt with pink, gave it hard eyes, wore it with hot pink pants and sparkly belt and shoes. She made the shirt fit into her own style rather than changing or pretending to change. She was just trying to take an interest in Seattle culture. And that attempt lasts for exactly one scene, and then she's back to her normal self. In episode 2, she makes a genuine friend at the very start, Shannon. The two guys are already friends with her at this point too. She sits with Dustin, she chats with Miles. Even Liz at the record store isn't super friendly, but she isn't mean either. It's more that she doesn't trust that Elle likes her because she doesn't understand why Elle would. In episode 1, she thinks it's a prank, and by episode 3, she flat out asks, "Why do you like me?" Once Elle has a genuine answer to give, she wins over Liz too. And later in episode 3, Liz is helping Elle gain more confidence with the bikini. And she sees Elle protecting her with the investigation, and she is Elle's friend by the end. Also in episode 3, it's pretty clear that both guys are into Elle. Shannon paints her locker to help her cover up the insult, so their friendship is blossoming too. And during the same bikini house party that solidifies her friendship with Liz, everyone chants Elle's name while she's singing karaoke. This takes place only halfway through episode 3, and Elle already fits in. This is after the firing Donna incident. They're literally cheering for her, and she's made a group of 4 friends already. So the prequel series cannot be a story about fitting in, because the fitting in aspect happens so early in the narrative. Now we still have 5 episodes to focus on everything else, including things that have already been introduced by this point and were sharing screen time with the fitting in arc. So even the first few episodes don't focus solely on Elle being a fish out of water. Hell, the cheerleaders have pep by episode 4, and when we first meet them, that seems impossible. I love them, by the way. But no, by episode 4, Elle gets them to happily dance. And even her dad remarks that she is thriving in Seattle. She has fully integrated herself. Honestly, a lot by episode 2, but it was definitely cemented by episode 3 at the pool party. I am pretty confident in saying that episode 3 is the end of Elle's fitting in arc. Really, the only person who consistently treats Elle like a true fish out of water is Kimberly, but Kimberly is mean to everyone. She says things like people's plans are lame, or you're being more yourselves than usual, to call Dustin weird basically. She says someone forced you to wear those pants to Liz. She's the actual mean girl. That's just her personality at this point, because she's the antagonist for the first half of the show. In episode 4, Shannon takes Elle's side when Kimberly sabotages the pep rally. Kimberly is the one that takes the longest to warm up to Elle and accept her as part of the group, but it happens in episode 5, where Elle is so kind to Kimberly regarding planning a memorial and giving Kimberly time to grieve. Kimberly compliments Elle twice in that episode and is annoyed about it both times, meaning Elle wins over the mean girl in about 5 episodes. Episode 6 is the one with both of them in detention, where obviously that bond between them gets stronger and more solidified, and they start properly working together. Another thing of note is that at the start, some of the characters try to paint Elle as not belonging in Seattle, right? Especially Kimberly. But the thing is, what she's saying is being subverted by what we are seeing, showing us that that's not actually true. Kimberly claims when comparing Seattle to LA, we just value different things here, like the planet and social justice. And then in the same breath, she adds, and not being totally entitled and sitting wherever we want in the cafeteria. And then she says she spent 4 years earning that seat. So basically they do value the same things they think LA values, exclusivity and popularity. What kind of social justice is it when you can't sit where you want and you have to earn it, otherwise you're excluded? And Elle is the vegetarian. She cares about the planet and about global warming. When the auction to raise funds to underpaid school employers starts, Elle is the one who wants to help. Everyone else is just standing around and not caring about social justice, except for Dustin, of course. There is a subtle, they're not as different as they think they are theme that runs through the show that makes some of the Seattle teens feel like quite hypocritical people sometimes. Another good example when Elle says that she raised money for chimps when a certain actress didn't win an Oscar, and Kimberly accuses Elle of making the loss about herself, essentially. How was it about herself if they raised money for a charity? The chimps benefited, and if you care about the planet and social justice, you should like that Elle did this and not criticize it. The Seattle teens also pride themselves on being nonconformists, but they all dress identical. Like, they completely conform to this one aesthetic. One of my favorite scenes is the joke of Liz showing Elle which lunch table has which clique. Like, these are the rich kids, these are the stoners, etc., and they all look exactly the same, wearing the same clothes and being virtually indistinguishable from one another. It's such a clever little moment. They're still teenagers who do want to fit in with their main group of peers. So while Elle may dress differently from them, she is in no way more of a conformist than they are. In fact, in Seattle, she is the one who does not conform to how everybody else looks. You see what I mean when I say that not fitting in is not the theme of the prequel? The focus of the show is not Elle being outcast or underestimated and having to overcome that. That's really just a pilot episode, but that's not the main lesson that she learns. Because as we've seen, she overcomes that very quickly and is fully integrated within 3 episodes. Elle being underestimated is something only truly explored and fleshed out in the movie, thus preserving the integrity of the timeline. I did like that in the movie, after Elle hasn't conditioned her hair for a week when Warner breaks up with her, her Delta Nu sisters say maybe she's going for the grunge look. It's a cute, accidental, retroactive nod to the prequel, because obviously the prequel didn't exist when they wrote the movie, so it's not a nod. But now the prequel lore exists. So that line works perfectly, as though it is a nod to Elle's time in grunge Seattle. Speaking of Legally Blonde, I'd go even further and say that fitting in is not actually the theme of movie Elle's Harvard arc either. And neither is learning her self-worth. Not really. I think sometimes we get the main themes of Legally Blonde slightly wrong, probably because people haven't watched the movie in a long time. Movie Elle is not ostracized by random people who look down on her. She is ostracized specifically by Vivian and her friend. It's Vivian who's always poking at Elle in class. It's only Vivian and her friend who exclude Elle from study group. The 3 guys in the group look really sorry about it. The narrative isn't about Elle having to fit in or coming to terms with not fitting in. It's about Vivian being insecure because Elle is Warner's beautiful ex who is still into him. So Vivian is purposely keeping her away from him. With time, of course, Vivian warms up to Elle. Everyone else didn't ostracize Elle. They merely underestimated her because they thought that she would be unserious and silly, but she always knew her own self-worth. They didn't. She did. She only ever doubts herself right after she's sexually harassed, but it's a passing moment and a result of that trauma. We'll talk about that a little more later. The rest of the time, from beginning to end, she had faith in herself and total confidence in her abilities. Elle also never tries to fit in. She never even considers changing herself at Harvard. And I know what you're thinking, but Lauren Light, she literally only decided to go to Harvard because of a guy, to be the type of woman that she thought he would want to marry. Isn't she literally changing herself for him? Yes and no. Let's say yes first. In that case, the theme is not don't change yourself to fit in, it's don't change yourself to please a guy. Which is perhaps a subtle difference, but it is still thematically different. But I would also say no, she didn't actually change herself for a guy. To be honest, I would consider a Legally Blonde plot more about tricking a guy than changing for him. Because according to Elle's conversation on the phone with her Delta Nu sisters, she was going to go back to LA as soon as she secured the proposal from Warner. So she didn't intend to actually change into a more serious person. And it seems like she wasn't even going to finish law school if she got engaged. She was just pretending to go to law school to get the ring. I am not sure how that plan was supposed to work in the long term. But it is important in our analysis of how she wasn't actually trying to change herself. She was trying to give the appearance that she was serious enough to be marriage material. This is easy to see because once she's at Harvard, she knows that people were looking down on her for all of her pink, for example, and she never once considered stopping wearing it. Not even for the guy that she went there chasing. She applies herself to her studies when she decides that she wants to, not because people are laughing at her in class. So yes, she wants to be seen as more serious, but she doesn't actually make any attempt to change her personality or style. She just changes her degree. As a whole, she goes through a different journey than the one she goes on in the prequel series. The theme of Legally Blonde really hinges on the perception of Elle. The movie is about proving her intelligence and her worth that she already knows she possesses to others who underestimate her. And the key difference between that Elle and prequel Elle, the difference that truly makes my case, is that teenager Elle does not have the same confidence yet. She doubts herself at many points throughout the show. She doesn't always or even often stand up to people who are treating her poorly, and she cares too much about what people think of her. That is her journey, learning to be confident in her abilities and in her own intuition, so by the time she decides to apply to Harvard in the movie, she doesn't even blink. She knows she will get in, and she does not allow anyone to talk down to her in the movie, ever. There is also a sequel to Legally Blonde, released 2 years after the first movie in 2003, called Legally Blonde, Red, White, and Blonde, where engaged lawyer Elle travels to Washington, D.C. to try and get a bill passed in Congress to prohibit animal testing done by cosmetic companies, because she wants to free Bruiser's mom from a lab and help all the other animals as well. In the sequel, Elle's main challenge is doing things her way while in a place where things are done very differently. And she marries Emmett in the end, which is not particularly relevant for our analysis, but it's still super cute, so I wanted to say yay about that. Seriously though, I didn't take the second movie into consideration for much of our analysis because I find that it's less strong than the original Legally Blonde. Some people didn't even watch or remember it, and I think it's pretty much a consensus that the first one is a lot better. But more importantly, Elle goes through very similar story beats in both movies, so it wasn't necessary to include much of the sequel. I do mention some scenes here and there though, so I wanted to remind everyone that yes, a sequel exists. There are 2 movies featuring Elle as a character. But let's get back to our new prequel from a week ago, 2026. Before its release, some people were saying that it could be more like an alternate universe Elle. So like, not exactly movie Elle. The same person and personality, but not that Elle, someone who grew up in an alternate timeline. So that's why their journeys are the same but different, because they're different people but the same person. You know what I mean? Alternate timelines. It's a reimagining of the story of the same person. And you can watch the prequel like that if you prefer, for sure, but I don't think that's necessary. It is believable that she is the same Elle from the movie, because we'll see that she learns different lessons in both of them. But honestly, even if the lessons were the same and the prequel was a little redundant, I would argue that it is still believable that it's the same Elle. Not that she regresses, but isn't it realistic that sometimes in life we have to learn the same lesson more than once? And we often repeat our mistakes and patterns? Sometimes we know better, but we still make a mistake. And our environment shapes us. And she had several years back in LA at university after her time in Seattle. It's not too far-fetched, in my opinion, that she's the exact same Elle from the movie, from the same continuity, even if she's having to go through the same things. Another way to look at it is she begins to learn her lessons in high school and builds on them later on, because personal growth doesn't just stop when you turn 18 or 21 or whatever. Listen, I think I can speak on her because Miss Woods, Elle and I are on the same wavelength, okay? The logo of the show and the inside of her locker in the poster are both the exact shade of glittery hot pink that I always use in every one of my videos for the section titles. She's giving my brand. These are 2, you can't even see it in the back. These are 2 of my bedroom decor pieces. This is the towel that I use most often. This is my bikini. It even has little hearts. This is my hat. Often even my shower cap is in this shade. So this is my old notebook that I would take with me, and this is one that I currently use to write in. Obviously I went overboard with it today for the theme, but just look at my eyeshadow, my nails, the baby pink shirt and the hot pink jacket, and then the sparkly necklace and sparkly earring. Those are the real life color of these things. I hope it translates in the video. And obviously the background behind me, my hot pink curtains that I hope to God do not look a different shade on camera, because I'm going to be so mad. And if the lighting of the video is not as good this time, it's because I'm filming here. But honestly, for the theme, the curtains were much more important than you seeing my face well. You don't need to see my face that well. Although I am changing places in like 2 minutes so that I can be a little louder. But yeah, I also actually am a sorority girl. I mean, I've long graduated, but I still am, just like Elle still is, even in the second movie. Though I will say I do not live in the United States, so the Greek system is much more chill for me. It's way cheaper. We don't live in the same house ever. We don't have like Greek houses. And there's not really a tradition of sororities and fraternities here, so we don't have any like centuries old organizations. So there are definitely some key differences, but there are also a lot of similarities, so I do relate to a lot of the Delta Nu stuff. I mean, I did win the award of Miss Sunshine and Best Smile voted on by my sisters. I know I sound like I'm not being serious about this, but I am dead serious about it. So call me illegally brunette because I would rather be a criminal than a lawyer. I'm just kidding. Please strike that from the records. Thank you. And I do love Elle as a character. I related to her the first time that I watched the movie. I was even lucky enough to watch the Broadway musical when it came touring to my city. All this to say, I went into this show excited but with low hopes, but still hopeful, with an open heart and an open mind, and I am so glad that I did. The show is endearing, it's lighthearted, it's fun, and contrary to my fear, it does add up with the movie without messing anything up. Before you watch the rest of this video, please tell me one thing. If you already watched the show, did you think it was redundant? Because like I said, a lot of us had this fear. So tell me in the comments if you think it's redundant now, and if you still have the same opinion by the end of this video. Because I would love to know if it makes any difference. Let's have a discussion about this, because I may very well be the person with the unpopular opinion or the hot take this time around, although I am very sure of it. And I think my arguments are airtight and very logical. I think I would win this case. So let's get into it. We're going to look at 3 things in this video. I mean, in this judicial presentation to the jury. 1, who Elle is as a person. 2, how she evolves mostly in the movie. And 3, which lessons learned in the prequel transformed her into movie Elle. Armed with that, we can easily answer the question of, is the Elle prequel series redundant, meaning it explores the same character arc for Elle that the movie Legally Blonde also already explored? And spoiler alert, I've already said that no, it's not redundant. Now let's prove how it is the character evolution that we watch on this prequel that makes Elle grow up to be the Elle Woods of the Legally Blonde movies. Evidence number 1, who she is. Who Elle Woods is in the prequel matters, so that we can see if her personality is compatible or incompatible with the person she is in the movies. Some of her key traits in the show are her kindness, her determination, and her intelligence. There's the occasional self-doubt that she overcomes, and less trust in her own gut. But we'll keep that for the next section about her evolution. And of course, when it comes to taste and style, it's the hyper-femininity with all the pink, high heels, manicures, all the girlishness. That is who Elle is in the movies too. But I think I found prequel Elle maybe a little bit more preppy with tailored Chanel suits rather than the stylish California girl of the movies. That's fine though, her style can definitely have evolved and even lightened up a little after being in Seattle or simply growing up and being in a sorority. It makes sense that it shifted slightly but kept the core of the hyper-femininity that defines her so much. Hey, now even my drink is pink. It's just a Crystal Light with the flavor of banana, strawberry, and orange. It's really good. Cheers! By the way, is it believable that nobody in Seattle wears pink or any color whatsoever? Well, no, of course not, but that's where the satirical elements of the movie come in. It's unrealistic because it's exaggerated, but it's exaggerated to make a specific point about social commentary. Like movie Elle's video application to Harvard, it's not totally believable that anyone would do that, but it works perfectly in the world of that satire. We just gotta suspend our disbelief and embrace the satirical world that she is in. Although, where is the Frasier and Niles Crane type crowd? The endearingly pretentious and not at all grunge ones. 1995 in Seattle, Frasier's show would have been on air, on the radio at that time. I mean, the show did mention Cheers, but I like to believe that Frasier and Niles exist as real people in the same universe as Elle. So back to Miss Woods. When we meet her in the prequel, it's her 16th birthday, and while giving a speech, Elle makes a joke along the lines of, "When you think of me, you think of someone sure of who she is and of what she wants." And you're right. The joke is interesting because that's movie Elle, someone completely sure of herself and who never really shows any self-doubt even when she is a fish out of water, not until something traumatic happens to her. Teen Elle wants to be like that, she is like that in her comfort environment, and she's almost fully there when she is out of that comfort zone, but she's not completely there yet. She also uses her own birthday speech to credit others for helping her become the person that she is. Like her friend who helped her find her signature scent, or the teacher who taught her the importance of wearing sunscreen. This speech is very movie Elle coded. Even though it's her day, she is using the speech to uplift and highlight others. Elle's kindness has always been one of her core traits. She's supportive of her friends and they're supportive of her. At the start of the prequel, we see that in how much her LA friends root for her. One of them even comes up with the idea that she applies to the Cosmo internship so she can come back to LA soon. In the movie, Elle is still fostering a similar environment as president of her sorority, Delta Nu. Her sisters are very supportive and her true friends. They're so happy with her LSAT results that they hoist her up and throw streamers in the air. You know, they helped her prepare for it. One helped her study, another timed her, another was in the application video for Harvard. And then they celebrate her win. In the second movie, they fly out to Washington to help her with the Bruiser bill. They activate the phone tree and even have a full political march full of Delta News from many chapters, all marching to support their alumni sister, Elle. In each version, movies and series, Elle is surrounded by people who care about her, because she cares about them too. She also cares a lot about animal rights. We get nods to it in the prequel, like her remark about being vegetarian and wanting someone to win a Nobel Prize for their work with faux furs. And obviously we get much more of it in the sequel movie, where she's trying to actually change the law to prohibit animal testing. Elle's kindness is very earnest. The things she chooses to do are not done to fit in, but often simply to help. As soon as she first arrives in her new Seattle school, she's complimentary and friendly to everyone. The people playing chess, Liz who's sitting next to her, even though she cares a lot about appearances, when she and her mom see a girl with dyed blonde hair and very dark roots, her mom is like, I hope it's her choice, and Elle agrees. They think the girl's hair doesn't look that good, but they don't judge her for it. They just hope it's not a mistake, but rather something that she chose to do. Later, when she's upset and wondering if she's as shallow as people in school think, her mom reminds her of this, and I quote, "You say they have depth? They care? Well, so do you." And it's so true. This caring is a through line perfectly linking movie Elle to teen Elle, because obviously movie Elle cares a lot too, and does things purely to help others. For example, helping her manicurist turned friend Paulette get her dog back that she lost in a breakup. Or when she overhears a girl telling one of the more awkward guys from her law class, "Girls like me don't date losers like you." Elle immediately steps in to defend him, not by confronting, but rather by pretending that she dated him and he ghosted her after they had the best sex of her life. Something that really raises his stock with this girl that had just tried to humiliate him. Of course, Elle also refuses to share Brooke's liposuction alibi with the rest of the lawyers, even though they needed that information to win the case, simply because she gave Brooke her word that she would keep it a secret. Vivian, who had been an antagonist up to that point, finds Elle's refusal to break her word classy, and that's what bonds them and they start to become friends. In the sequel, Elle gains her greatest political ally in Sid, the adorable doorman she befriended because she was chatty and kind to him. And she wins over the group working at Congress by giving them genuine compliments and talking them up to their boss, even when they didn't deserve any credit. I mean, the first time she introduces the snap cup, she gets called stupid. Then later in the sequel, they bring out the snap cup to comfort her. Then they play a big part in helping her get the signatures needed for her bill, and they root for her success. Elle constantly wins people over with her naturally warm and inclusive personality, because she shows kindness to everyone and treats everyone the same with friendliness and encouragement no matter what. Everyone that she encounters is a friend to her. Similar things happen in the prequel. The friendship group formed organically and through Elle's charisma. Her earnestness wins them over. It's just that, like I said, she wins them over pretty early on. This fish out of water was well acclimated by episode 3. And still speaking of her kindness, when it comes to the pep rally, even though she needs it to go well for her own Cosmo application, her kindness still shows through because she is still willing to let Kimberly, someone who so far has been awful to her, plan the whole thing. Elle trusts her and is gracious enough to basically give her carte blanche to do whatever she wants. When a cheerleader messes up their homecoming choreo, Elle isn't even fazed. She simply helps the girl get back on track and they keep dancing with huge smiles. We see many more examples throughout the prequel that portray her as often caring even more than the Seattle kids who claim to be so concerned with others and with the world. For example, when Dustin is trying to auction off items to raise money for the underfunded staff, nobody is buying anything. They didn't actually care enough to help until Elle herself stepped in. She was the only one who managed to remind them that the auction is to help the people that care for them, like Donna. She was also the only student to call Donna to check in on her after she was fired, which is something Donna herself tells Liz. And who snitched on Donna, by the way? There were only students in that scene. Who heard that and then snitched? Jesus. Later in the season, when Elle and her friends purposely get detention to investigate if the principal is actually misusing school funds, Kimberly learns about that and she tells the rest of them Elle wasn't even there at that point, so it wasn't about antagonizing Elle. Kimberly says, "And you wasted your weekend to what? Care? It's not our personal money." Kimberly, the one saying Seattle teens are passionate about social justice, doesn't think they should care unless the stolen money is theirs. But Elle does care. She cared even before the missing sign at the intersection caused the accident that killed Shannon's mom. Elle tries to get Donna's job back, doing petitions, etc. Although part of the reason for that was that Elle wanted to write to Cosmo about her own comeback, so there was a self-serving side to it, she also clearly cares deeply about Donna as a person too. When her friend Shannon loses her mom, Elle is one of the few to take it seriously. The rest of the school is giving ridiculous, jokey ideas of what the memorial should be. But Elle genuinely wants to take the planning off of Kimberly's plate because she knows that Kimberly is grieving too. And once she finds out that there is corruption happening with the principal, she wants to make it right and fix it. All of this caring and kindness that she displays are, like I said, true to the core of who she is in the movie as well. We can see this Elle grow up into that Elle very easily. I also mentioned her determination and intelligence as key traits in the prequel that are still very much a part of her in the movies. When we meet her, she already knows how to speak in front of a crowd and how to conduct these things. She has that kind of confidence. We see it in the birthday speech, the auction, the presentation about homecoming, and of course the accusatory speech at the mayoral debate in the end. This natural ease that Elle has with crowds and confidence with public speaking, of course, helps her a lot as a lawyer in court when she has to speak in front of a jury, or even as Delta Nu president, where she has to speak in front of the entire sorority or in front of Congress in the second movie. Also in the second movie, it is said that Elle Woods is one of the shrewdest legal and political minds of our time, and she quickly distinguishes herself not only at her law firm but also at Congress. In the prequel, at the very start, she has a 3-point plan to guarantee a great senior year. She's poised, she's a model student, something that is both told to us by pretty much all the adults in the show, and it is also shown to us via her knowledge in chemistry class and book themes. And she uses smart language like, we need to put a moratorium on any more bodily contact. And it actually sounds natural and right coming from her. You can picture someone with that language also becoming a lawyer someday. And of course, Elle is not only intelligent, but also extremely knowledgeable in the topics that she cares about, which is another through line between the prequel and the movie. Elle's unique knowledge of fashion and beauty and trends helps her in investigations because she notices things that other people might not. In the prequel, she realizes the principal was having an affair because he claims a suede jacket found in his car belongs to his wife. But Elle knows someone from a rainy city wouldn't own anything suede. It's like in the movie where her knowledge about perms and that you can't wash them for 24 hours allowed her to realize that the guilty murderer was lying about their alibi. Her determination is also portrayed very often in the show, as well as how much initiative she has. It's easy for her to take the reign of things. Elle whips up petitions with hundreds of signatures like it's nothing. When she wanted to book the Rainforest Cafe for the memorial, but it was last minute and a large group, she called 150 times using 150 different voices to make 150 individual bookings. Like, that is a crazy level of determination. She managed to throw a homecoming event in a city that didn't have them. And she got the balloon arch and all the sponsors that she wanted. And she taught a very sullen and uninspired group of cheerleaders to do an amazing performance. And then obviously the entire plot of investigating the principal's embezzled school funds and figuring out who blackmailed him and how to out them to the world shows great determination. Elle made an entire heist-like scheme to get the key and the proof that the funds were mishandled. I love that heist detention plot and how she had roles for everyone. It showed a lot of creative thinking. The same that we see in the movie, like for example, when she is asked if she would rather have a client guilty of a minor crime or a dangerous client. And she instead answers with she'd rather have a client who is innocent. That creative thinking is seen in the sequel too. For example, when she figures out where to approach a judge, I think she's a judge, at a certain hair salon, Elle uses her expertise in hairstyle and hair care philosophy to figure out which salon the judge would be at so she can engineer a run-in with her. But yeah, the prequel episode in Detention is great. Detention as a plan is great, and that arc shows how she's willing to fight for what's right and protect her friends. An instinct that we see in spades in Legally Blonde. And it also shows her learning to take a risk when the situation really calls for it to protect someone. She's not used to doing that and hesitates because she's a good girl. But when push comes to shove, she triggers the fire alarm at school to prevent her friend from being expelled while they investigate. She then owns up to it and learns that sometimes breaking the rules is the right thing to do to protect someone. I like that the characters themselves took inspiration from Breakfast Club to come up with their plan. It's not just a reference, it's like in world the characters use it, and I thought that was cute, and like I said, it showed Elle's creative thinking. Obviously, the same determination we see throughout all 8 episodes is a big character trait of hers in the movie as well. Whenever Elle puts her mind to something, be it chasing a guy or getting into an Ivy League university, or proving someone's innocence, or writing a bill and getting it passed in Congress to change the law, she throws herself into it with wholehearted determination. I mean, hell, she suddenly out of nowhere decided that she wanted to go to Harvard, and she did it quickly. What, like it's hard? So when it comes to Elle Woods, there is clear continuity between prequel Elle and movie Elle. Her core key traits are the same. She is very much the same person. But of course, she's a teenager. She's learning, growing up, finding herself. So she evolves as a person, and that's what we'll look at next. Evidence number 2, her character evolution. To talk about Elle's character evolution as a person within the story, we're going to shift more to the movie for now, getting to see who Elle is in Legally Blonde, and then tying that back to where she began in the prequel and what kind of evolution allowed her to become movie Elle. Very early in the movie, the scene at the clothing store establishes how smart and perceptive and quick-minded Elle is when the seller tries to trick her into overpaying and she easily sees right through it. It is also established that she's the president of her sorority, which does come with a lot of responsibilities actually, and it requires organizational skills that we do see prequel Elle already displaying, like with planning events, her 3-point plan, and then the movie establishes that Elle is not serious enough for Warner to want to marry. That's his perception of her. She decided pretty much then and there when he broke up with her to go to Harvard Law School because that's the type of serious girl that Warner wants. It's misguided determination on her part, something that we see often in prequel Elle, like her performance at the auction getting Donna fired because she said too much, or when she has the petition to rehire her but that might get Liz kicked out. So sometimes her determination gets the better of her. Movie Elle was very confident from day one. Confident enough to claim to her guidance counselor that she doesn't need a backup school as she will get into Harvard. I have a 4.0 average, she claims with a smile and adds, "Trust me, I can handle anything." It's an admirable level of belief in herself and her abilities. And the thing is, she built that confidence throughout the TV show. We'll talk more about exactly how in the next section. And by the way, she does have the highest GPA in Delta Nu. It actually is relatively easy for her to get into Harvard. She just had to buckle down and study for the LSATs, and she aced it the first time that she tried. Just like Prequel Elle, who is admired as a very good student. Her parents are surprised that she wants to go to law school, but it's not because they think she's not smart enough to get into Harvard. They wonder why would she want to get into Harvard? Because she's vibrant and bubbly and cheery and pretty versus being boring and ugly. But her intellectual capabilities were never questioned by them, which is very in line with how supportive of her they are in the prequel. They believe that she is amazing and capable of so much, although sometimes they might not understand what she wants or why, like with her mom sending the Cosmo application even after Elle threw it away. When it comes to confidence and a complete sense of self, we see it a lot in the movie. Elle doesn't get bothered or insecure when she's walking into Harvard and people are very noticeably staring at her. And some are even teasing or laughing. She notices and remains completely unfazed. The same thing happens in the sequel as she's strutting into Congress in a sea of black suits, and she is confident and unfazed about standing out. Her reaction in both movies is different from her reaction in high school, where we saw her walk into her new high school smiling, and then we watched her slowly deflating the more people made jabs at her. Teenage Elle became more insecure and saddened by these stares and pointed remarks. And actually, even prior to that, while she was in the car, she was already starting to feel a little out of place, and she said that suddenly she felt very blonde. Which again makes sense because teenagers often don't have such a strong sense of self yet. So these things hurt more and you feel more inadequate. Over time, Elle learned to no longer let that mocking reaction from others affect her. Her confidence at Harvard is too unshakable, which is a direct and very plausible evolution from her in the TV show. So she really can strut into Harvard and not think twice about anybody staring at her. She only gets a little intimidated by that very strict, tough professor, and it's Vivian who's like, yeah, Elle should be kicked out of class for being unprepared. Elle doesn't feel bad about herself for being kicked out though, as Prequel Elle probably would have. No, adult Elle just left muttering angrily to herself. Her confidence and self-assuredness are also seen in how she fights back when someone condescends her. Elle never backs down, she always stands her ground. We see it during one of her classes. When Elle first claimed that she would rather have a client who is innocent, Vivian laughed at her and showed off that the right answer was a client who committed a minor crime. So Elle switched her answer and declared that she would rather have a dangerous client because she isn't afraid of a challenge. And she smiled pointedly at Vivian. During a study group, another girl basically says mockingly, "Isn't there like a sorority that you can like join?" Elle stands up for herself again by calling out the mean behavior and saying that if the girl showed up to rush the sorority, Elle would have at least been nice to her. When Vivian tricks her into coming to a regular party in costume, Elle doesn't run. She confronts Vivian and says she's dressed like a constipated frigid bitch, and she stays at the party. Again, it is that unwavering confidence in herself that allows her to do these things. And Prequel Elle is not quite at that level yet. She's confident, but when pressed, we see her crumble. Movie Elle does not crumble. She's also very confident that she will get the prestigious internship. And when Warner says she's not smart enough for it, she's immediately like, am I on glue or did we not get into the same law school? She does not allow his perception of her to change how she sees herself, because she knows she's capable. She knows that she is intelligent enough. Then Elle says, I'm never gonna be good enough for you, am I? That is her turning point. So far, Elle only went to Harvard and stayed there because she was trying to win Warner back. Now she realized he doesn't actually respect her, and so she loses interest in him, thankfully. So she leaves the party and immediately goes to buy a laptop, still in the costume. From then on, Elle starts to be seen carrying books, and she actually applies herself in her studies. The natural intelligence was always there, but now she is also trying. It was done as a screw you to prove herself to Warner, not because she still wants him, but because, hey, he said she's not smart, she wants to make him eat those words. I've said it before in a video, spite often motivates me in life, and it motivated Elle too. From here on out, she'll do law school for herself. not for Warner or for anyone else. And it does make sense that she was initially doing it for a guy, because Prequel Elle did immediately decide that she no longer wanted to leave Seattle as soon as she had a moment with Miles after he was single. So yeah, Prequel Elle technically decided that she didn't want to go back to LA because of a boy, so it makes sense that she would also decide to go to Harvard because of another boy. At least so far in the prequel, in season 1, she has not yet learned the lesson of not following a guy, as that is a lesson that she will only learn in the movie. So at least for season 1, it's not redundant. She doesn't learn the same lesson twice. So then movie Elle gets the internship with the prestigious legal firm, where they're representing alleged murderer Brooke. Elle's strong intuition tells her that Brooke is innocent, and Elle never wavers from that, even when everyone else thinks the opposite. And she takes initiative in the case. We see that adult Elle is more trusting of her gut instinct and of her intuition than teen Elle in the show. In the show, at one point, she does start to wonder if maybe she's wrong and Donna actually is guilty. When it turns out that Donna is not, it teaches Elle to trust her own gut more, because it turned out that she was right. Then, unfortunately, movie Elle is harassed by the professor who gave her the internship. It is only when this traumatic moment happens that she starts to doubt herself. He makes her feel like she didn't earn her spot. She feels like a joke because, as she says, he never saw her as a lawyer, just as a piece of ass. So she wants to leave Harvard. She was happy there prior to this incident, feeling like for the first time somebody expected her to do more with her life. But now she thinks that nobody will ever take her seriously because this professor didn't. Now, is this scene at odds with the prequel show? I actually think it kind of is, because in the show her parents would expect her to do more if she wanted to, and they're very supportive. But to be fair, they are very supportive in the movie too. They just never visualized a different life for her, I guess. Then Elle claims, no more trying to be somebody I'm just not. I think at first glance this is also a little bit at odds with the show. She should know by now that this is who she is, right? Well, no, not necessarily, not considering what led to this moment. We have to take all that she's saying here with a slight grain of salt, because it's the result of trauma. Yes, I know that all the professor did was hit on her and put a hand on her leg, but that is such a breach of trust, and it does make you feel violated and unsafe. So Elle's emotions are not in a good place. This type of trauma distorts people's perceptions of themselves, and that's exactly what it did to Elle here. It cracked her great confidence and made her doubt herself, even though she had no reason to. The people around her know that he is wrong about her, and they remind her of it. Someone, I think it's Paulette, answers with, what if you're trying to be somebody you are? And of course, the strict professor has that iconic line, if you're going to let one stupid prick ruin your life, you're not the girl I thought you were. She sees and respects Elle and Elle's talents. Then, of course, the trio of Emmett, Vivian, and Brooke get together to help Elle by hiring her as Brooke's new student lawyer under Emmett's supervision. These three are new friends and one love interest that Elle made by being so earnest and kind, just like she made her Seattle friends. The movie ends with her winning the case by using her talents. Her kindness toward the accused got her hired, she gained admiration by keeping her word, and she proved herself to any doubters when she caught the stepdaughter's lie about not hearing the gunshot because she was in the shower. Because she had a perm that day, so she couldn't be washing her hair. Elle goes from somewhat waffling in her jury performance to sharp and decisive once she catches that. In the last scene, the song Perfect Day plays during Elle's Harvard graduation. It also played in the first scene, while she was getting ready for what she thought would be a proposal, but was a breakup with Warner. Now her idea of a perfect day has evolved, and she is getting the proposal this time from the right guy who cherishes and respects her, and who sees her for who she is. This makes a lot of sense with the prequel, actually. In the prequel, Elle has no interest in being a lawyer. That is not her perfect life. She comes back to Seattle to stick with her friends and make things right, but she is still interested in fashion. That's where the prequel ends so far, so it totally adds up with the movie continuity here, where at the start, being a lawyer isn't her perfect day either. The evolution of becoming someone who wants to be a lawyer is not something that she undergoes in the prequel. It is something that she undergoes only in the movie, so it is not redundant. Oh, and even at the end of the movie, after all of this character arc and her evolution, she is still a Cosmo girl, like she says to the press after her big courtroom win. So, now that we've discussed the themes of fitting in, self-worth, and proving oneself, we looked at who Elle is as a person in each iteration, and we looked at her evolution between show and movie. It's time to look at what lessons Elle Woods learned in the prequel, because these are the lessons that shaped her into the version of her from the first half of the movie. And these are the lessons that people wondered whether they would be redundant or not. Evidence number 3, lessons learned. Let me get a little refill over here. Right. Now we're fully back to the prequel, the Elle Show, to take a look at what Elle Woods learned throughout the 8 episodes. We've discussed whether or not her show evolution takes her to the place she's at when the movie starts, and now we're gonna look at the how. How did Miss Woods change throughout season 1 of the prequel series and learn lessons that she applies in the movie? Well, in Seattle, Elle learned to be more sure of herself, especially when things get hard. She learned to not care what others think of her, and to not let her confidence be shaken by outside opinions. She also learned to trust her own gut and intuition, and learned that it is rewarding to put herself in challenging situations. When it comes to confidence and self-assuredness, in episode 1, we see how much she deflates when she arrives at school and people are dismissive or mean to her or stare at her. Even prior to that, in the car, like I already mentioned, she gets nervous and remarks that she is feeling very blonde. Despite never changing her personality or her style to fit in, she is nervous because, as she explains, she's not used to being disliked. This is Elle's first experience with that, and it makes her insecure, but it prepares her to when she experiences it again in the future. In the movie, I already mentioned that she doesn't even blink when people are making dismissive or mean remarks about her. She struts into her Harvard dormitory and never cares about their opinion on her. But in the prequel, after being treated that way in school, she comes home and wonders, what if I really am the vapid LA girl they think I am? Elle questions her own identity and worth very quickly because of their opinion on her. In other words, she almost lets their opinion affect how she sees herself. In the movie, this never happens. Elle knows her worth. What she questions, even at her lowest point, is whether everybody else will ever see it, or will they always continue to think that she is shallow. But she knows she isn't shallow. She knows how capable she is. So there is growth from the TV show. Remember, when she wants to leave Harvard, it's because others didn't take her seriously, and she is tired of fighting that, versus the start of the prequel, where she wonders if others' opinion about her might be right. I look like I've also been tanning with Elle outside of her pool in LA. That's great. But yeah, this ties into the idea that Elle isn't as certain of her capabilities yet. Because she lacks such a strongly developed sense of self and confidence, she's not as sure that she can pull things off. For example, there's one point in the first half of the season where Elle is so overwhelmed that she exclaims that she wants to give up. Things aren't going right, and she seriously considered just not trying anymore. But she chooses not to, and eventually things work out, showing her that she was right to keep trying without giving up. So in the movie, she never has the desire to give up, except when she is harassed. But like I said, that is different because it changes your own self-perception, even if temporarily. A perhaps better example on the show is in episode 2, when she has the idea of rehiring Donna for the comeback article that she wants to write. She then hesitates and says, "But isn't that kind of hard?" It's natural that a teenager would hesitate to try something like this because, yes, it will be hard. She isn't sure if she can pull off something hard. She isn't sure because she's lived life in her comfort zone up until now, happy but unchallenged. She's never had to try hard things, not yet. Movie Elle wouldn't hesitate though. She never hesitates to act, especially to right a wrong, even at the start. Getting into Harvard Law School out of nowhere should have felt like a hard thing to try, and yet she doesn't even blink before deciding she'll do it. Prequel Elle doesn't start the show with the same certainty as we've just seen. She gains this certainty throughout the show because, for starters, she decides that she will try to get Donna rehired, even though it is hard. Elle works very hard to prove Donna's innocence later on, and it pays off, so it builds up her confidence in herself. She's also a little unsure while planning the memorial for Shannon's mom and searching for the perfect place. But once it works out well, it builds her confidence. Throwing that homecoming successfully after all the challenges that came with it also helped. Oh, and in the sequel movie, Paulette comments, "Isn't changing the law and planning the wedding of the century at the same time kinda hard?" Elle confidently says that she can handle it. Her experiences in the prequel showed Elle that she is very capable, that she can handle tough situations and come out on top. So in the movie, she already has that certainty within her. That's why she tells the guidance counselor with such certainty that she will get into Harvard, and why she's so sure that she will succeed with Warner, with the internship, even with the case. She never doubts herself, and she learned that confidence in Seattle over time by slowly succeeding at different things. She got to know herself more in Seattle outside of her comfort zone, because oftentimes we need challenges to really learn what we're made of. Although I do have to say, there is one moment in the sequel movie where she is very discouraged and sad because the Bruiser Bill got killed. And for that brief moment, she wonders if she's not cut out for Washington. And she kind of wants to give up. I don't think that indicates a regression in Elle's growth though. I think anyone, no matter how confident, will have occasional moments of self-doubt, especially when something so important just went wrong. It doesn't mean that she lost confidence in herself and needs to learn the same lesson twice. Personal growth doesn't end, and just because she learned that confidence in high school and already had it in Harvard, doesn't mean that it's unrealistic for her to be discouraged sometimes. Cheers, here we go. Teenage Elle's but her smaller amount of confidence when compared to her adult self is seen again in the very important house party, pool party scene. And I know you were waiting for me to talk about this. Elle misunderstands what a pool party means in Seattle, and she shows up in a bikini. And by the way, if someone invited me to a pool party and I got there and there was no water in the pool, I would be so mad. Like, I'd be mad for a week straight, because what kind of bullshit is that? Give me my water. But anyway, Elle is embarrassed to realize that she's the only one there in any kind of beach attire, and she runs away and hides in the host's bedroom because she really is very, very embarrassed. She's truly mortified to be seen like this. Obviously, this is a direct parallel to the famous scene from Legally Blonde, where Vivian intentionally tricks Elle into showing up in costume to a regular party. And Elle arrives wearing a very sexy bunny costume. The thing is, she handles it very differently in the movie. She's like, oh, when she realizes what's happening, but she doesn't get mortified about it. She barely even hesitates at all, actually. Instead of running away and hiding like teen Elle in a bikini, adult Elle struts in wearing the costume and heads inside to find and confront Vivian. Then she stays at the party, like greeting people, being social, regardless of the fact that she's the only one in any costume, and a very revealing one at that. She uses the opportunity to go flirt with Warner. Later, she even goes on to buy a laptop while still dressed like that, so clearly she does not care. Adult Elle isn't embarrassed at all. She is confident enough to rock that costume and not care at all about how she's perceived. She knows she looks hot, and that's that. And how did she learn to be that way? Well, the Seattle pool party is a lesson for the future. Elle is hiding, like I said. She's very uncomfortable, and she calls Liz and asks Liz to bring her emergency outfit. Liz doesn't do it though, because Elle had also said that the reason why she likes Liz is that Liz doesn't care what people think about her, and Elle wants to learn to be like that too. She asks Liz to teach her to be like that, because this Elle still values people's opinions about her way too much. She wants to be liked way too much, and she admires Liz for having confidence to be herself without the need to be liked. So Liz is like, bet. And to help Elle learn how to be more comfortable, Liz tells her she'll have to go out there in the bikini. She doesn't have another choice. Liz even explains that at some point, Elle tried on the bikini and thought she looked good in it. So, in Liz's words, own what you think. So, having no other choice, Elle finds the courage to step out of her hiding place. And she stays at the party even though she's the only one wearing a bikini. She even sings karaoke, starting quite tentatively but then loosening up and having more fun throughout. At the end, everybody is clapping and cheering, and she's being accepted. So this was her first lesson in not caring what people think about her or about what she's wearing. This is how she learned to build that confidence, the confidence that she has for the bunny costume. I actually really like the pool party in terms of character development, linking the show and the movie. It is so good. We see another nod to this idea in the sequel movie as well, not with accidental clothing or with being tricked, but when she decorates her entire desk in Washington in her style, without caring at all about how much it stood out and made her seem less serious and less professional to her colleagues. She likes it, so she owns it, just like Liz said. And again, that's an evolution that started at the Poolist pool party. When it comes to friendships with people who aren't like her, it's what I said before, Elle makes them within 2 episodes. We've been through that. But prior to that, she does write some unfortunate things for Cosmo about how people in Seattle are unstylish and basically don't have good skin, that kind of stuff. Towards the end, this revelation leads to Elle declaring, "You all prejudged me too." And this is true. We didn't actually see Elle prejudging them. She tried to be their friend and be complimentary from the very start. But we learned from the article that she did prejudge. She learned that she was wrong, of course, although she had every right to be mad at them because they were not treating her super well either. But you know, between then and now, she has become very close with these people. And that's why in the movie, she doesn't prejudge anyone. They all prejudge her. But Elle was incredibly friendly and welcoming to everyone at Harvard. She treats everyone like a friend. It's another lesson from the prequel that makes her into who she is at the start of the movie, because the prequel taught her not to prejudge anyone because her first impression of them was incorrect. Then we have, of course, the mystery plot of the TV show, a clear parallel to Elle's murder case in the movie, as in both cases, she's using her particular talent and worldview to prove someone's innocence and find the actual guilty party, despite the rest of the world thinking the accused is guilty. The lesson she learns through that in the prequel is to trust her instincts, her intuition, and her gut. When Donna is accused of theft, Elle doesn't think she's guilty, but that belief wavers with time. She questions that at the police station with Liz, and later when she's sitting on the bench with Bruiser, wondering if her gut is actually wrong. It makes perfect sense that as a teenager, she's less sure of herself. Hell, if all adults are telling her that Donna is guilty, it is natural that she wondered if maybe they were right and she was wrong. She doesn't give up though, and of course she and her friends manage to prove that Donna is innocent. So although Elle was still learning to trust her gut and her intuition here, that intuition and gut are proven right because she does figure out the real guilty party. The validation of being right in this situation is what teaches her that yes, her instincts are more often than not correct. She can listen to them. That's why years later at Harvard, she already fully trusts that gut and that intuition because she had that experience in the prequel. So she doesn't doubt her read on Brooke's innocence. In fact, she is unwavering in her belief that Brooke didn't kill anyone. And the foundation of that trust in her own instincts was laid here when teenager Elle proved Donna's innocence and thus proved to herself that her read of the situation was right. Part of the process of proving this to the world included Elle delivering a speech at the mayoral debate, a speech that very much mirrored her deposition at trial at the end of Legally Blonde. This shows us that public speaking and proving a point is something that has always come naturally to her. When it comes to that question of, oh, does this prequel add up with the movie canon? This is like the only scene that I feel doesn't make sense for her to not have referenced in the movie. I think during the trial, she would think back on this and be like, it's just like that time in high school, I can do this. But it's not a continuity break by any means. It's simply a detail that ends up missing from the movie canon and that I think she probably would reference. Then, after winning their big case against the principal, Elle tells the press, "My friends and I refuse to let anyone underestimate us." This is something that she learned throughout this journey, and it's a characteristic that she already has in the movie. Like I said, she stands up for herself whenever Vivian or anyone else talks down to her, and when she realizes that Warner actually does underestimate her, she loses all interest in him and applies herself in class to prove him wrong. I really do think that she learned this instinct here in the prequel with these Seattle friends, after being told no by a few adults but trusting their own intuition instead of listening to others. That's when she realized that she would not let people underestimate her again. And of course, this is the first taste of being a lawyer that Elle gets. The cheerleaders chant, "Elle has gone all lawyery." Donna then asks if Elle has ever thought about being a lawyer. And we all saw that question coming from someone, right? Someone was gonna bring that up after the mayoral debate, obviously. And of course, Elle says she's not interested because at this point, she is not interested. She wasn't interested at the start of the movie either. I like this line in the prequel, not so much as a reference, but more to reiterate that this isn't movie Elle yet. She doesn't go to law school because she's interested in law. She goes to try to win Warner back, and then she falls in love with the law. So I like that the prequel made it clear here that this brief lawyer moment didn't spark her interest in law yet, even though she clearly enjoyed it while she was in it. And it showed her that she was capable of it, which may be why she's so sure of herself as she's applying to Harvard, and even regarding internship and such. But yeah, if this actually sparked Elle's interest in being a lawyer, that would actually go directly against the canon of the movie. So I'm glad that it didn't, and that they didn't do that. Finally, Teen Elle goes back to LA when she gets the internship after everyone gets mad at her in Seattle because of what she wrote for Cosmo. And in LA, we see her carry with her the lessons that she learned from her grunge friends. While she's out shopping, she likes a purse but puts it back after checking who the designer is because, I quote, "I heard they have unethical labor practices." This is the social justice that she learned from Seattle activists, and now she cares about it for real, something that she wouldn't have done before, so it surprises her LA friends. During her internship, the three Cosmo girls are praised for having the same trendy taste. And Elle wonders, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Now this is ironic because everyone in Seattle had the exact same taste as everyone else in Seattle too. The joke that all the cliques look the same is my favorite. But it did expose Elle to a style different from her own, and she learned to experience that fresh perspective. At her internship, she decides to be bold and she declares that fearless is finding something new. Then she rips the sparkly dress that was meant for a famous actress to wear at the Golden Globes and suggests that they use safety pins and lining to close the slit. Elle has a true knack for styling and fashion, and now she used her exposure to grunge to make a sparkly dress a little more edgy and a little less safe. I'm sure this creativity and ability to think outside the box helped her have a 4.0 average in fashion merchandising in the movie, and prior to her Seattle time, she might have played it safe instead of being fearless. I like that she's influenced by the grunge style, but not personally. It never becomes her style. It just influences her aesthetic eye in general. But it never becomes her style because she knows what she likes. Later, when she's telling her friends about the risk that she took with the dress, she said that she knew in the moment that she had to trust her gut and be herself. She learned that in Seattle, it paid off in the internship, and she carried it with her to fictional UCLA and to Harvard, and later on to Washington. I said not too long ago that at the start of the prequel, Elle wants to give up when things get tough, and throughout the show, she grows out of that instinct. Now, in the final episode, that lesson comes back full circle. Because now Elle wants a challenge. She wants to face her problems without running from them. She wants things to be tough because she knows she can handle them. Staying in LA feels expected, and she's not challenged in fashion despite loving it. Seattle pulled her out of her comfort zone and she enjoyed that, just like how she enjoys Harvard later. The celebrity stylist that she looks up to even tells her that sometimes friction means you're in the right place. And listen, Elle was glowing in LA with those friends and happy at the internship, so it makes sense that she would return there for university. Was it a little forced that she decided to go back to Seattle at the end of the prequel? And does that go against CULA-L? Maybe it's a little forced. It's a little contrived for plot reasons, I think. But I don't think it goes against the movie. I mean, I don't know actually. Let's think. If fashion is not challenging her, why does she still choose it as her major? I guess the way to look at it is, fashion is her passion. This is what she wants as her future job and career, but right now something else is a priority. She was happy there at first. She just got sad when she remembered winter formal and thought about it. And she realized she doesn't want to run from her problems and from conflict. And she doesn't want people to just go on hating her. She wants to fix that. So that's why she goes back to Seattle. Elle even says that fashion will always be there for her, but basically she has unfinished business in Seattle because everyone hates her. And like I said, she doesn't want to run away from that. She wants to face the challenge head on with the confidence and determination to tackle them, just like how movie Elle approaches all of her challenges. So she goes back, having learned Seattle lessons that she will carry with her forever and that transformed her into Legally Blonde Elle. And of course, people in Seattle become more like her too. The cheerleaders gain pep and perform full choreographies even without her. The whole school enjoys homecoming. They follow her lead in the investigation into the principal. They want to have a winter formal. And despite claiming they want to do it not like Elle and calling it a winter informal to be edgy, grungy teens, they're still inspired by her. They admit that the fundraising aspect was a good idea. They're just mad at her and they're hurt because of the article, so they cling to the not like Elle thing. When she arrives back in Seattle, she is so touched and so impressed by how well the Seattle teens planned the event and decorated the entrance of the venue with paper snowflakes and a donation table. Those were all initially her ideas. They learned from her too. When Liz gifts her a pink plaid shirt in the penultimate episode, Liz says, "You made Seattle a little pinker, and I like to think Seattle made you a little platter too." That's exactly it. The shirt symbolizes and represents Elle's character evolution and the evolution that she brought to all the other characters with her presence. They're all better people for knowing each other. So, as you can see, the lessons that Elle learned throughout all 8 episodes of the prequel are not the same lessons that she learned in the movie. They are lessons that transformed her into who she is at the start of the movie, and then she learns other lessons throughout the movie. The prequel does not break continuity with Legally Blonde. It doesn't make Elle regress as a character, and it does not have redundant life lessons for her. It has lessons that she builds on. Closing remarks and final verdict. At the end of the Legally Blonde movie, Elle was elected by her class to give the Harvard Law graduation speech, in a culmination of how sticking to her true nature made them all love her. She graduates with an offer from a top Boston law firm, which of course is the culmination of the theme that she was smart and capable all along, like she knew that she was. In her speech, she says this: "Passion is a key ingredient to the study and practice of law and life. It is with passion, courage of conviction, and strong sense of self that we take our next steps into the world, remembering that first impressions are not always correct. You must always have faith in people, and most importantly, you must always have faith in yourself." Of course, this speech is thematically nice because it highlights some of Elle's main traits. She's passionate in all that she does, she has courage in her convictions to fight for what's right, and obviously she has a very strong sense of self. In the movie, all 3 of these traits are present from the start. She was passionate about getting engaged and about Delta Nu, then about getting into Harvard, and then about her studies and about the murder trial. She always had conviction. She knew that she would get into Harvard. She always treated people kindly. She knew she would get Warner back. She stood up for herself, etc., etc. In the second movie, she even gets fired for sticking to her convictions and claiming that the law should be about helping people and that animal testing is wrong, even if the law doesn't say that it is. And she never wavers in that conviction, no matter the consequences. And obviously she had sense of self because she never actually considered changing herself. She kept her style, her way of behaving and treating people. She didn't become jaded. She kept her word. She kept her femininity. And even when she doubted herself after being harassed, she was gonna leave. She wasn't gonna change. So these traits aren't a result of her character growth in the movie. They're things that she already started the movie with. But Teen Elle doesn't have the traits that she starts the movie with. Not completely, at least, as she is of course still growing up. Her identity is still starting to evolve and solidify. She's passionate about what she cares about, fashion, her life in LA, etc., but she is much more hesitant than her adult movie self. Teen Elle doesn't passionately and enthusiastically throw herself into everything with the certainty that it will work out for her. She will often be more lukewarm about things, like for example considering dropping cheerleading because they weren't what she expected, or sitting down and not even trying to have fun at the Carpet Mart concert until Dustin pulled her to the dance floor. She has less courage in her convictions too, like hesitating to help Donna because she thinks it will be hard, or kissing her friend's ex because she got swept in the moment despite knowing it was wrong, or starting to wonder for a bit if Donna maybe is guilty. And Elle's sense of self wavers a bit. Not enough to make her change to please others, but enough that early on she wonders if she is vapid. She tries the Nirvana shirt, although with the hot pink accessories and pants. She hides at Kimberly's party because her outfit was wrong, and she's embarrassed and self-conscious about it. That less strong sense of self is even seen in her being somewhat torn between being a Cosmo girl or staying in Seattle at some points. So, let's start wrapping this up by bringing it back to our posed questions from the opening statements. Is the prequel Elle redundant to the movie Legally Blonde? Meaning, does Teen Elle go through a character arc or plot lines similar enough to the movie so that it feels repetitive or unnecessary? No, it's not redundant. Like I said before, and I hope have now successfully proved, in the show, Elle doubts herself. In the movie, other people doubt her. That is her main difference and where her growth lies. It is not the same character arc. Does the prequel character of Elle make sense with the character from the movie, or does her mere existence break continuity? Yes, Teen Elle makes sense as the same Elle. No, there is no continuity break. The main reason why the prequel makes sense is, well, everything we talked about. If Elle's evolution within the episodes of the show is what leads her to become movie Elle, then obviously the continuity is fine. She learns lessons in the prequel that shape who she will be by the time that we meet her in the start of the movie. And her main character traits become more defined throughout the show. So they already start out defined by the movie. And then the character arc that she goes through in the movie is a different one, like we looked at in the beginning. I object to claims that the show makes the movie not make sense and only works in an alternate reality. As I hope I've proven here today, it does work, as show Elle's evolution and growth is seen in movie Elle's unshakable confidence and poise. And this is not a parallel universe. Teen Elle can easily be the canon Elle from Legally Blonde, without breaking or regressing any of the continuity. At this point, I'm honestly not even sure if people believe actually that they have to pretend this is an alternate reality for it to make sense, or I have to pretend that Legally Blonde doesn't exist to enjoy this prequel. I don't know if they feel this way, because they actually do, in which case that's valid, although I don't understand why. Or if they feel this way because they decided they were going to before they ever even watched, and then it became an echo chamber and now they won't change their minds. Because I do think that a slightly deeper analysis of Elle's prequel arc reveals that this is not true. It was very easy to make the case that it can exist in the same universe as Legally Blonde. This can be 100% the same Elle, and it still makes sense. The only little thing that I would like to change, if we were able to retroactively do that, because it feels a little weird that this goes unacknowledged in the continuity, would be to have Elle look around at everyone staring at her on her first Harvard day, giggle, and say, "This feels like my first day in Seattle." Other than that, everything lines up well enough for me. Season 2 might change that, but for now, it lines up. Now, if you take the second movie into account, there is one character that got his continuity way messed up, and that is our dear Bruiser Woods. In the prequel series, Elle's mom rescues him from the Spellings, their neighbors and famous producer Aaron Spelling, I believe, because they no longer want Bruiser as he clashes with the decor. However, in the sequel movie, Elle claims that she, Elle, found Bruiser abandoned in the streets, having to hustle to survive. That poor dog's entire backstory got retconned, damn. It is an alternate universe after all, but only for Bruiser. Oh, and justice for Madison. It would be so nice if she was still canonically in Elle's life in the movies. I like to think that she's another Delta Nu, and that she is somewhere in this scene, or at least that she was at the wedding, you know? But of course, it also would be realistic that she went to university somewhere else, and that's why we never saw her. And real quick, if anyone is curious, how do I feel about the show as a whole? I actually really enjoyed it. If you watched any of my other videos about more modern shows, you've heard me complaining that I feel like most modern characters are so bland. They feel wooden and with forced dialogue, and they just completely lack charisma. And Elle doesn't suffer from this. Even the crazy lines sound very earnest and realistic because of great acting and charisma from pretty much all of the cast, I would say. Elle is such a sweetie, and the actress who portrays her really sells her truly being the real Elle. Her mom and dad are fantastic. Many of her friends are very solid and great as well. And it was touching to watch James Van Der Beek in what I assume is his last role. Rest in peace. Thank you for giving us Dawson's Creek and Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23. I really enjoyed both of those shows. Back to Elle. Weird transition, I know, but back to Elle. The plot gives her and her friends many different things to do, which I found cool. They kind of switch up the focus a little bit in every episode. It's great. It works. The prequel works. I could have done without the love triangle. I didn't love love triangles when I was a preteen. I didn't love them as a teenager. I don't love them as an adult. Unless you're the Vampire Diaries, I would rather you don't even try to do them. But outside from that, I really genuinely enjoyed and liked the show. And I don't like it for the nostalgia or for the references. Although references like the scented paper, the little pink hat, and the card for her at the opening, they were all pretty cute. But that's not what I like the show for. I like it for what it is, truly. And I already liked Elle as a character from before, and she holds up in the prequel for sure. I definitely think the story works even if you don't know Elle or if you remove all the nostalgia stuff and put it in 2026. Because it is cute and lighthearted and it is solidly well written. I did like that a pre-fame Christina Aguilera lives in Madison's dad's pool house because he's a music producer or guest house or something. I mean, Genie in a Bottle, Come On Over, Dirty, Fighter, Lady Marmalade, Still Dirty, Not Myself Tonight, and Vanity all went multi-platinum in my house and they are still on my rotation. On the show, the grunge and grunge-leaning soundtrack was pretty cool also. Now that we've established that the continuity between the original movie and the prequel is fine, we are left with the question, did Legally Blonde need a prequel? I mean, no, strictly speaking, it didn't need it. Elle has a very complete character arc in the first movie and didn't necessarily need a backstory or a second movie either. But am I glad that we got the prequel series? Yeah, I am. I really am because it was so fun to watch and I'm looking forward to season 2 way more than I expected to be, which is so rare for post like 2015, 2016-ish shows for me. Like I said, Elle doesn't fall into that bland category. The show might not have landed at the top of my absolute favorite teen dramas of all time, but it genuinely might be the best teen drama of the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. So yes, even though it is not strictly speaking necessary, I am really glad that Elle the series was made. I'm glad that it exists because I like it, and at the end of the day, I guess that's all that matters. And I do think that we need uplifting content, reminding us of the importance of being kind and being compassionate now more than ever, because people are really low on empathy lately. We need characters like Elle, and we need lighthearted shows with a warm feeling to them. I unfortunately don't know if it can go on for too many seasons. Like, if it goes for more than 5, it will start encroaching on movie territory, or prequel Elle will not evolve past what she already evolved and maybe what she'll evolve in like season 2 or 3 at most. Unless she graduates and we see her going to university and joining Delta Nu and all that kind of stuff, but that almost feels like it would be a different type of show. I don't know, I would at least love to see her meet Warner in the final season of the prequel, regardless of when and where it ends, to really tie in the continuity to the movie and explain why she decided to date him over perhaps her other choices. Your Honor, I will end this video with a confession. I still don't know how a zine is not a magazine. You guys, I looked into it. Just because it's non-commercial and self-published doesn't make it not a magazine. I mean, anyways.
Oh, and if you like theater, singing, or any reality competition show, I highly recommend watching Legally Blonde the musical The Search for Elle Woods, the MTV reality show where they're trying to find the next actress to play the main role on the Broadway show. Usually all the episodes are up on YouTube, except for one that's kind of lost media but comes back around from time to time. It's cute, it's fun, the iconic scene of them belting on exercise bikes pops into my head almost every time I listen to What You Want.
Members of the jury, that's you all. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts on the show and on everything we discussed, and on the movie, on how well you think Elle works as a prequel. Tell me what you would like to see in season 2. Please subscribe if you would like to see more from me. The Marissa Cooper video essay is pretty much done, and the Ben Linus video essay is still in the works, as always. So stay pink, stay kind, and